She was the pathetic and incompetent granddaughter of a legendary shinobi who went to a secret academy to hone her skills and become like her grandfather. Asuka is a useless piece of garbage whose only use is being comic relief with milk jugs. She and her other friends, who are also massive milk tanks, went to the same prestigious Hanzo Academy to train and fight against a set of dark shinobis who were about to wage war on them. One night Asuka was battling a group of enemy shinobi on the rooftops of the city. They were trying to steal an item from her, but when one enemy thought they grabbed it, they only had Asuka's shirt. Asuka had used a clever technique to hide the scroll and managed to escape after throwing a smoke bomb. She later received instructions from her grandfather Hanzo to attend an academy to train as a skilled shinobi. While on a boat to Asakusa, she quickly ate a snack. A girl named Homura, who Asuka hadn't met yet, approached her, but they didn't talk long as Homura found Asuka a bit silly and walked away. Once they arrived, Asuka headed to the National Hanzo Academy for her secret training. Some boys noticed her from afar and tried to get her attention, but she quickly hid in a tree and then made her way to her dorm through a secret entrance. At the dorm, Asuka met Ikaruga, another student, who noticed the boys who had tried to approach Asuka. Another girl named Katsuragi surprised Asuka from behind, playfully teasing her. Just then, Hibari entered the room but tripped and spilled some liquid on herself. Hibari congratulated Asuka for passing an exam, but Yagyuu, another student, told her to focus on improving herself. With all 5 students together, their teacher, Kiria, made a grand entrance and announced that they would practice hand-to-hand combat during their first class. As the girls changed for training, Katsuragi continued to tease Asuka. After getting ready, they all arrived at their special training facility. Ikaruga and Katsuragi were the first to spar, followed by Asuka and Yagyuu. After their training, Asuka shared some snacks with everyone, including their teacher Kiria, who appeared and joined in. He then assigned the girls to take care of some troublemakers in the shopping district. Not sure how to find their targets, Ikaruga suggested that they split up to search. While walking around, Asuka bumped into Homura, who said she was on a school trip and had lost track of her friends. Asuka offered to help, unaware of Homura's true intentions. Meanwhile, Hibari and Yagyuu encountered some troublemakers led by a strange-looking leader. Hibari sent a signal to the others, indicating they had found the culprits. Ikaruga and Katsuragi arrived to help, while Asuka was still with Homura. Homura suddenly tried to attack Asuka, but she accidentally fell into the river. The girls managed to defeat the troublemakers, who were revealed to be puppets controlled by an enemy, shinobi named Haruka. After the fight, Asuka reunited with her friends while still soaked, and Homura met up with her own companions. The next morning, the girls headed out for their next training session, while Asuka faced the degenerate hands of Katsuragi again. Ikaruga, on the other hand, looked troubled as she remembered that Kiria told them they had been attacked by a skilled puppeteer. They got to a mountainous area and started to practice their ninja summoning techniques. Kiria complimented Yagyuu for being an expert at handling squids, if you know what I mean. When it got to Hibari's turn, she looked like she could spray her liquids all over my screen, but she managed to summon a pink rabbit. Sadly, Asuka was completely pathetic and useless when she tried to summon her own creature. After a tough training session, the girls went to wash off. Ikaruga cheered up Asuka and told her to take her time with the summoning process. She told her to be more confident and have pride in the fact that she was the granddaughter of the great Hanzo. However, Asuka was still bothered by her incompetence. Hanzo was the master of the hidden arts known to all shinobi, and established the shinobi unit in the first division of the Cabinet Secret Service. This was why the academy was also named after him. After she just got dressed up, Asuka was made wet again by Katsuragi, who wasted no time in harassing the poor girl. Kiria showed up just before matters got out of hand. He then ordered them not to make contact with any outsiders because of their encounter with the puppeteer. Ikaruga suspected that he knew more about the enemy and didn't want to tell them. Hibari was really scared about getting attacked, but Yagyuu said she'd protect her while giving off the aura of an obsessive mother. As Katsuragi reached for Asuka's milk jugs, Asuka fell and a frog leapt into her melons. Katsuragi stripped the poor girl and let the frog go, but Asuka was already unconscious after getting defiled by the slimy creature. Asuka then spent the rest of the night looking through an animal book to find inspiration for her summoning spirit art. The next day, Hanzo came to visit her. As he arrived, he immediately fed them his long sushi rolls, which the girls stuffed down their throats like it was something they were used to doing. After that, he told Asuka that their family's summoning spirit was the tree frog, which she really hated. While she and the other girls searched for frogs, Hanzo summoned a handful to help her out. Meanwhile, Homura and her companion met with their master, and Yomi was assigned to be the next troublemaker for the Hanzo Academy girls. Later on, Hanzo informed Kiriya about the Serpent Academy for girls, who were the ones behind the puppet attack. He referred to them as their old enemies and said the girls would have to be prepared to fight to the death. While Asuka fell into a pool of frogs, one of them found its way up Ikaruga's skirt, and she made happy noises as it found its way out of her clothes. With her purity gone, Asuka and Ikaruga went to get items to prepare a welcome party for Hanzo. On their way home, they got attacked by Yomi, another girl whose milk jugs were waiting to spill out of her dress. Yomi was upset about the unfair balance of the economy and how capitalism was affecting everyone, but Ikaruga wasn't interested in hearing a lecture. Refusing to be ignored, Yomi set up a shinobi barrier, trapping Ikaruga and Asuka. Yomi started criticizing Ikaruga for being a spoiled rich girl, probably because Yomi herself had struggled with poverty. The two began to battle, and Yomi quickly overwhelmed Ikaruga, damaging her clothes in the process. After a series of attacks, Ikaruga was left in a vulnerable state. With her opponent defeated, Yomi left, while Asuka felt bad for not being able to help during the fight. When they returned, Ikaruga apologized to Kiriya for making contact with an outsider, but he reassured her not to worry about it. She insisted on being disciplined for her mistake, but Hanzo stepped in and said he would take care of it. Asuka, frustrated with her grandfather's odd behavior, told him to stop making others uncomfortable. Despite this, Hanzo continued to show concern for Ikaruga and the others. Later, Kiriya informed Ikaruga that her family had contacted him regarding her missing brother, Murasame. Ikaruga didn't have any useful information since her relationship with him wasn't strong. It was revealed that Ikaruga had been given the family sword, Hien, and had taken over her brother's place in the family. After a shower, Ikaruga found Murasame in her room, trying to steal Hien. He blamed her for his misfortunes, but Ikaruga easily dealt with him and made him leave. As he exited, Murasame encountered Hanzo, who had been keeping an eye on him. Hanzo advised him to return to his father's house and choose a different path in life, rather than becoming a shinobi. The next day, the girls continued their training, but Ikaruga was especially tough on everyone. Katsuragi stepped in and told her to ease up, which led to an argument between them. Asuka managed to calm them down with her grandfather's sushi rolls. Taking Hanzo's advice, Ikaruga decided to give Asuka extra lessons in summoning. They trained under a waterfall, but Asuka struggled with the weight of the water. Ikaruga was determined to help Asuka overcome her fear of frogs, but it was a difficult process. Eventually, Asuka overcame her fears when one of the frogs was in danger. With her fears conquered, Asuka successfully summoned her spirit animal and completed that part of her training. Meanwhile, another group of enemy shinobi was sent out to challenge the girls. Kiriya took the girls on a boat ride to Shinobi Island for training. While on the boat, Katsuragi won a card game against Hibari and Yagyuu and playfully flicked their foreheads as punishment. Afterward, she and Hibari teased Asuka. Ikaruga tried to intervene, but before she could, they arrived at the island. Due to Kiriya's limited resources, the girls had to stay in a rundown shed that looked haunted. He began their training by assigning them the task of cleaning the house. The shed was extremely dusty, making the task challenging. While the girls cleaned, Kiriya and Yagyuu went to catch fish for dinner. Yagyuu managed to catch a large amount of fish, while Kiriya struggled. Katsuragi went out to gather firewood, while Ikaruga kept the fireplace going. Hibari then mentioned to Asuka that she saw something written about becoming a super ninja on one of the wooden beams. During dinner, Kiriya explained to Hibari that a super ninja is the ultimate shinobi, far superior to others. After dinner, Ikaruga tried to read, but the other girls were having a pillow fight and eventually pulled her into it. During the fun, Ikaruga accidentally hit Kiriya with a pillow. It was also revealed that Yagyuu was very protective of Hibari, seeing her as a little sister. The next morning, they began their day with a special form of training, where they practiced fighting in minimal gear to enhance their skills. After the training session, they switched to swimsuits. Katsuragi playfully took Asuka's bikini, teasing her. While on the beach, Kiriya received a letter saying that one of his former students was waiting for him. Later, Hibari was confronted by Mirai while she was out fishing. When Hibari tried to escape, Mirai blocked her path and introduced herself as a freshman from Serpent Academy for girls. Yagyuu then arrived to protect Hibari. Meanwhile, Katsuragi encountered another enemy named Hikage. They fought, but Hikage wasn't affected by Katsuragi's attacks. Kiriya soon realized that he had been tricked when he briefly saw an image of his former student, Rin. As soon as Mirai lost some of her clothing during the fight with Yagyuu, she escaped on a rocket, which was surprising in a ninja setting. Katsuragi was also beaten by Hikage before she retreated. That night, Kiriya explained that Serpent Academy for girls was a dark institution created by dark shinobi to oppose Hanzo Academy. The girls realized that all the enemies they had faced were from Serpent Academy. Katsuragi felt disappointed that her opponent didn't take her seriously, and Yagyuu felt similarly. Yagyuu tried to cheer herself up by playfully teasing Asuka, who didn't resist. The atmosphere soon lightened and the girls returned to their usual playful selves, except for Ikaruga, who remained focused and serious. At the Serpent Academy, Homura and her fellow seniors were letting the younger ones know that they had a long way to go before matching up to them. Despite being dark shinobis, they shared the same traits of making happy noises and exposing their melons with the Hanzo Academy girls. After a steamy shower, they received new orders to attack the Hanzo Academy. Meanwhile, Yagyuu continued to spoil the stupid and useless Hibari while they sparred. Katsuragi was training intensely in order not to be humiliated like she was the last time. The Serpent Academy girls snuck into Hanzo Academy to look for their fellow milk jug warriors. Kiriya was giving his girls a boring lecture, and they struggled to stay awake. Katsuragi got punished and was told to hold buckets of water while hanging upside down, making her look like a mentally disturbed bat. She then remembered how her parents abandoned her when they decided to run away after failing a mission. Because of this, she decided to spend the rest of her days to become a brute and not repeat her parents' failure. The alarms in the building were set off, but Kiriya only saw a bunch of delinquents wandering around the place. When he went to confront them, he realized that they were puppets. Before they had enough time to react, the entire campus was engulfed in a shinobi barrier. Asuka and the rest realized that someone who had mastered puppetry could put up the barrier, which meant that the Serpent Academy girls had come for them. The girls quickly changed into their shinobi uniforms and got ready for battle. Katsuragi ran off like a deranged idiot, but the others called her back before she could get herself killed. Haruka summoned some puppets to attack them, but during the fight they all got separated. Yagyuu was set up against Mirai, Hibari was set up against Haruka, Katsuragi got a rematch against Hikage, and Ikaruga was forced to battle against Yomi. The Battle of the Milk Jugs began, and only the greatest of melons would emerge victorious. Asuka faced off against Homura, who released a strong killing intent. She could barely fend off the attacks before her clothes got ripped. Asuka decided there wasn't a need for clothes, so she decided to bless the screen with a better view of her assets, and she went into Mortal Kombat mode. Homura called her a stupid, naive brat for thinking that they could ever be friends. Asuka managed to disarm her, but she just brought out more swords and got more serious. Meanwhile, Hibari and Haruka were about to get down and dirty in their own battle. Yagyuu eventually arrived at a dead end after ignoring Mirai, who got angry for being treated like trash all this while and whipped out a machine gun. Again, what kind of ninjas are these people? Somewhere else, the leader of the Serpent Academy girls, Suzune, spoke about obtaining a scroll known as Yang from the Hanzo Academy, while they had the Ying scroll in their possession. They were trying to bring the two scrolls together to satisfy their lofty desires. Kiriya was informed that it must have been a current or former member of the Light faction that showed the Serpent Academy girls how to get into the school. Katsuragi was getting beat up, but this made her more interested in the fight. Despite using her summoning art, Hikage still wasn't affected by her useless attacks. Hikage landed a critical hit and tore up her clothes, but the stupid girl still wanted to fight in those ridiculous undergarments. The two of them continued to clash, and Katsuragi managed to relieve Hikage of her clothing. On the other hand, Ikaruga and Yomi continued their battle in bikinis. Ikaruga managed to overwhelm Yomi, but still wasn't able to land a fatal blow. Yagyuu was the only competent one who managed to use her squid tentacles to slap Mirai away, causing the barrier to be weakened. She walked through the barrier and met up with Kiriya instead of Hibari, who she was hoping to see. Kiriya told her that there was a forbidden technique that allowed someone to infiltrate a barrier, but they would suffer physical damage and stress from the backlash. As he spoke, he had flashbacks of his student Rin, who managed to deploy a linked shinobi barrier, but he was convinced that she was dead. Yagyuu tried to use the same technique to reach Hibari, despite Kiriya's warning. Meanwhile, Hibari was fighting like a retard, and Haruka decided to oppress the stupid girl with her huge cakes and melons. Haruka started to touch inappropriately, but you probably wished it was you getting some of that action. Hibari used her secret ninja art to summon her pink rabbit, which attacked Haruka and ripped her clothes as well. However, Haruka wasn't fazed by such flimsy attacks, and she returned the favor by smacking Hibari around the place. Yagyuu was able to push through the barrier and reach Hibari, thanks to their connection. Due to the stress of passing through the barrier, she wasn't able to dodge Haruka's attacks properly. Haruka blew her an explosive kiss and stood over her with a menacing aura like the mother of milk. She was about to finish off Yagyuu, but spared her on Hibari's request and asked to become friends with her in return. Haruka then gave Hibari a hairpin as a sign of their friendship. Asuka and Homura were still battling it out as well. Asuka managed to rip off Homura's clothes, but her attack had no other damaging effect. Homura mocked her for worrying about her comrades instead of thinking about how weak and pathetic she was. The barrier started to become unstable thanks to Mirai's defeat, so the Serpent Academy girls had to retreat. Before leaving, Homura told Asuka that she was unworthy of being the granddaughter of a legendary shinobi. The girls reunited, and Yagyuu was taken to the National Shinobi Hospital. It's later revealed that Yagyuu saw her deceased younger sister in Hibari, and this was the reason for her overprotective nature. Hanzo returned to the academy and fed the girls his big black sausage roll. Later on, he told Kiriya that it was time to find a successor to the super-secret ninja arts. The next day when Yagyuu returned, Hanzo told them that the scroll containing the super-secret ninja arts would choose its owner. Asuka woke up from a bad dream that reminded her of her humiliating defeat at the hands of Homura. While the girls headed out that morning, everyone's mood was very down. Katsuragi decided to lighten up the mood by copping a feel of Ikaruga's cakes. She was also trying to lighten up her own mood since they wouldn't get anywhere with feeling like losers. Meanwhile, Kiriya was writing a report of the incident when he was informed about someone familiar to him who could have been the traitor that led the Serpent Academy girls into Hanzo Academy. At the Serpent Academy, the girls were going through their own training when Yomi told them that Suzune used to belong to the Light faction. Homura didn't believe her words, but Mirai reminded her that both their families also came from the Light faction. Haruka recalled that Suzune had a weird reaction when she mentioned her linking barrier technique in Hanzo Academy. It's then revealed that Suzune was actually Rin, Kiriya's former student. Daiduji told Kiriya that when she went to look for Suzune's corpse, she found a dark aura clinging to a piece of her clothing. She also told him that all the techniques of the Serpent Academy girls were all advanced forms of different arts that Rin used. After that, Kiriya took his students to a dangerous mountain where their training would involve hiking. Ikaruga recognized that it was a forbidden training, and hiking was an abbreviation for Herculean incitement to kindle incredible new gambits. It was a form of training that took 2 days and tested a shinobi's survival skills with no outdoor gear. Kiriya told them that the person to obtain the scroll at the top of the mountain would be the winner, and he sent the poor little girls to a different world of torment. The girls glided down to the base of the mountain, while the wind made sure to give a good view of those luscious cakes. The mountain had treacherous obstacles and dangerous creatures that wanted to cop a feel of the girls' assets at any given moment. Kiriya called it a theme park, which meant training habitat encouraging maximum effort, progress, achievement, reward, and know-how. At this point, they were just making up these stupid abbreviations on the spot. While a snake was about to suck on Ikaruga's milk, Hibari used her ninja art to save Yagyuu from the swarm of piranhas that were about to turn her into a kiddie meal. Later on, Ikaruga met with Katsuragi, and they set up camp for the night. The next day, Asuka encountered a large cat and got into a fight with it. The cat mocked her status as the granddaughter of a legendary shinobi and said there was nothing special about it. While being crushed under a pile of rocks, Asuka was able to overcome the expectations that haunted her, and she defeated the cat, who was revealed to be Daidoji. The five of them arrived at the summit at the same time and found Daidoji waiting for them at the top. When Daidoji introduced herself, Katsuragi revealed that she was a senior who passed her finals but kept repeating classes for whatever stupid reasons. In order to obtain the scroll, they had to defeat her, but they couldn't even put a scratch on her. Asuka nearly landed a surprise attack, but Daidoji dodged in time and blew her away. Kiriya showed up to stop the muscular milk tank from further humiliating his students and revealed that she was the one who arranged their hiking training. She declared Asuka as the winner and handed the scroll to her. When Asuka opened the scroll, the only words she saw were, "Power is both sword and shield." According to Hanzo, those words were the essence of a shinobi. When they got back to the academy, Kiriya was drilling a lot of lessons into them. He then told Yagyuu and Hibari to stay behind for extra lessons, since Yagyuu was always treating the latter like a rare golden egg. Daidoji told Kiriya that he was doing well with his lessons and that the girls would grow up to be spectacular shinobis. 2 years ago, Katsuragi and Ikaruga were the first to be recruited into the shinobi program. Ikaruga made no effort in trying to be friendly with Katsuragi when they first arrived. Katsuragi tried to show off her skills during her sparring session, but she got beat up like an idiot. After getting beat up, she realized her melons were bigger than Ikaruga's own, so she took that as a win. After Ikaruga was harassed numerous times by the degenerate girl, they both got into a fight and continuously ripped each other's clothing. Ikaruga's barrier became unstable, and she couldn't undo it. Katsuragi slapped her back to her senses and tried to kick her way out of the barrier. She said that they were similar in an awkward and weird way. Ikaruga finally decided to work together with her, and they used the powers of their milk jugs and indecent dressing to break out of the barrier. As punishment, Kiriya asked them to hang upside down with buckets of water. A year later, they gained the ability to use their shinobi transform techniques. While Ikaruga thought of a simple battle outfit, Katsuragi wanted something that would leave the sausages of enemies wanting to spread white seeds all over her. Then Asuka joined as a new student that year. Katsuragi quickly noticed how massive her melons were and couldn't wait to run her hands all over them. Asuka's clumsiness and sheer stupidity made them doubt that she was really the granddaughter of the great Hanzo. Eventually, they came to realize that Asuka was just as pathetic as them. During the spring period, Yagyuu and Hibari joined them. While Yagyuu showed a lot of promise and talent, Hibari was the most useless thing that Kiriya had set his eyes on. The rest of them didn't like Yagyuu's arrogant behavior because she felt like her skills were way above the rest of them. Eventually, they all became friends. Daidoji revealed that the reason she refused to graduate was because she had never beaten Rin in a fight. Rin was lost to them after she took on a very dangerous mission, and she was never seen again. Back in the present, Suzune and the mysterious leader of the Serpent Academy discussed how to obtain the Yang Scroll. Suzune suggested that they wait for Hanzo Academy to train their chosen one and lure her over to the dark faction. While Hibari took a shower, the hairpin that was given to her by Haruka began to glow and she became her newest relief toy. At night, Yagyuu went to Hibari's room to apologize for leaving her behind earlier, but she wasn't there. Hibari had wobbled herself and her melons into a secret room where the Yang Scroll was being kept. Kiriya rushed there after hearing the alarms and got knocked out by her. Hibari then stole the scroll and left. The next day, Kiriya informed the rest of the girls that the scroll had been stolen. He told them to remain on standby in their rooms while he contacted headquarters. While in her room, Hibari saw the scroll under her bed, and it was quickly snatched by Haruka. She realized that she was controlled by the puppeteer and tried to get the scroll back, but it was lost in the vast depths of Haruka's melons. Haruka told her that the Light faction would see her as a traitor and invited her to join the Serpent Academy. Before leaving, Haruka made sure to satisfy her urges by grabbing Hibari's cakes. With no other choice, Hibari left for the Serpent Academy and left a note that told her friends what had happened. Kiriya broke the hairpin and saw it was a device known as a spiritual wave transmitter. It was used to receive and amplify the spiritual powers of a shinobi, allowing them to manipulate a victim. Hibari hoped to get the ninja scroll back, even if it meant losing her life in the process. Yagyuu rushed to go and save Hibari, but Asuka managed to stop her and held her down before she did anything rash. Yagyuu calmed down and explained that she saw Hibari's room empty the night the scroll was stolen, but she couldn't believe that cute girl with the massive honkers and cakes could actually be the culprit. She blamed herself for leaving Hibari behind during their extra training lessons, but her friends reminded her about the power of friendship. Meanwhile, Hibari arrived at the secret Serpent Academy and was caught by some dark shinboy who thought she was a spy. They tied her up like a degenerate doll used for relief and brought her to Haruka's room. Haruka took her in and showered her with a disturbing amount of love. She showed Hibari around the training grounds, where she met the other dark shinobi girls. They quickly accepted her as one of their own, and Yomi began rambling about the increased prices of bean sprouts in the economy. Hibari was enrolled and found out how the rest of the students joined the academy, such as Homura, who joined because she had killed someone and didn't have a clean record. Lastly, she was introduced to Suzune, who told her to abandon her body for whatever crazy reason. Hibari noticed that Suzune reminded her about the writing she saw on the Shinobi Island. Suzune reported to their leader about Hibari, who had enrolled, and he told her to handle anything concerning the annoying students. She told him that obtaining the scroll was still pointless and foolish, but he reminded her that he was the one who saved her pathetic life when she failed a mission. Later at the Hanzo Academy, Yagyuu told Kiriya how Asuka had improved when she dodged her attack earlier. When Kiriya went outside, he was approached by Suzune, who challenged him to a duel. He broke through her breastplate and let the milk tanks free, and her mask was broken as well, revealing herself to be Rin, his former student who he thought was dead. Kiriya recognized her unique swordsmanship. She gave him a map to the Serpent Academy and said she'd be waiting for him there. With Suzune gone, Kiriya noticed the presence of his students who were eavesdropping and told them to come out. Thanks to the map, they found out that the Serpent Academy was located in a preservation site that was off limits to the public. They asked Kiriya for permission to go and save Hibari, but he was concerned that it could trigger an all-out war between the two factions. Hanzo showed up and gave his approval to their request, saying he would take full responsibility for whatever the outcome would be. Before they left, Kiriya made sure to punish them with the weird bat pose and heavy buckets. Meanwhile, Hibari snuck around the academy to find the stolen scroll. Then she heard a conversation between Suzune and their leader, Daugen. Suzune was trying to explain that she lured the Hanzo Academy girls so that the chosen ones would be in the same place, since the scrolls were useless without them. Regardless of that, Daugen said her actions were a sign of betrayal. He called her a traitor and had her put into custody after she insulted his stupid decisions of hastily rising through the ranks. The Hanzo Academy girls did their Power Rangers transformation and headed out to save Hibari. As the girls left, Kiriya and Daiduji decided to follow them because they were worried about Rin. Before leaving, Daiduji told Kiriya and Hanzo that the Serpent Academy girls were using a forbidden technique. Later that night, Haruka took Hibari to the different training grounds, where they practiced different camouflage techniques. Hibari saw how harsh and strict their training methods were, but it was necessary to keep out the trash from the elites. Asuka and the rest arrived at the location of the Serpent Girl Academy and waited until the night before carrying out the rescue mission. In the bath scene with Hibari and her new massively endowed friends, she asked them what they thought about Suzune. Homura felt she was missing her old academy and told her that she was free to go back at any time she wanted. Haruka stopped them from bullying her favorite plaything and began fondling Hibari's melons, causing her to make happy sounds and a face that looked like she was about to burst. While that was going on, Mirai tried to hide how much she loved what she was watching. From their answers and actions, Hibari felt that the girls weren't as bad as she thought. When it was nighttime, she went to try and steal the scroll back, but overheard Homura and the other girls talking. She used a chameleon veil to blend in with the background as she eavesdropped on their conversation. The girls were informed by Dugan that Suzune had betrayed them by leaking their location to Hanzo Academy. This caused them to believe the rumors that had been spread about her. Dugan ordered them to defeat any intruders and told them that failure wasn't an option. If by chance they were defeated, he would activate the yoke technique. It was a forbidden art that allowed the caster to kill whomever they pleased, so far as the technique had been used on the target. However, Hibari was caught by Haruka and she was tied up to prevent her from alerting her friends. She was then locked up alongside Suzune. Asuka and the rest fought through a horde of ninjas on their way to the castle's entrance. Yagyuu was able to track the secret entrance because of her sense of smell that rivaled that of Wolverine. As they ran in, they were stopped and confronted by Yomi. They got into a fight with Yomi's troops, while Haruka informed Hibari that her friends had arrived. Hibari tried to stop Haruka from going to fight because she was afraid that Haruka would die, but Haruka had no doubts about winning. This stupid girl must have forgotten what side she was on. Suzune told Haruka not to underestimate Kiriya's students because of his teaching methods. Ikaruga decided to face Yomi by herself, while the rest of the team pressed onwards. Meanwhile, Hibari asked Suzune why she joined the Dark faction and if she was the one who left the writings on the wooden beam on Shinobi Island. Suzune noticed that she could use second sight but wasn't strong enough to fully control it. She then broke out of her cell and left some words of advice for Hibari. While Yomi battled Ikaruga, she spoke about how much she hated her because Ikaruga grew up in a fancy mansion and she was a gutter rat who could barely afford a single meal. Her parents sacrificed their lives to save her, but she still ended up as a useless wretch. Ikaruga said she was lucky to have parents who loved her and wished that her parents had shown her that same amount of love. On the other hand, Yagyuu and Katsuragi were separated from Asuka, and they encountered Mirai and Hikage. The two sides had scores that they wanted to settle, and they saw this as the perfect opportunity to do that. They both took their targets into different shinobi barriers to settle their melon wars once and for all. As Higake looked into Katsuragi's eyes, she started to feel emotions that she had forgotten for a long time. Meanwhile, Yagyuu and Mirai were playing Call of Duty with their umbrella guns. Mirai told her that she also had people who she wanted to protect, and this made Yagyuu stop ignoring the flat-chested girl. After wasting their bullets, they finally decided to fight like real ninjas with their swords. Later on, Asuka ran into Homura, and they started to fight inside another barrier. Back at Hibari's cell, she tried to pick up the jail keys and escape, but Haruka caught her. Haruka told Hibari about her sly father, who owned a hospital but used the money he made while evading taxes to cover up some medical mistakes. With her father absent, her mother turned her into a weird dress-up doll to make up for her loneliness. Her entire family was a bunch of mentally disturbed people, and she was no different. Haruka was about to burn everything to the ground until Suzune found her and took her in. She opened Hibari's cell and told her to try and get past her if she could. Hibari let her guard down and quickly got roughed up. She used her secret ninja art to defeat Haruka, and then used telepathy to inform her friends about the curse that would take the lives of the Serpent Academy girls if they lost the battle. She stupidly told them not to fight, which just made the girls even more angry at their opponent's conditions. Asuka and the rest felt bad for them. As Hibari told them to defeat the man who was controlling the curse, which was Dugan, she got knocked out by Haruka. Katsuragi and the rest defeated their opponents swiftly and went to tackle the man on top. Yagyuu headed for Hibari, who was about to become a defiled plaything for Haruka. Ikaruga, on the other hand, told Yomi that she was adopted and not the spoiled rich brat that Yomi thought she was. The girls' fighting spirits had caused the two super-secret ninja art scrolls to start reacting to each other. As Asuka continued to battle Homura, she saw a glimpse of her memories, where the dark shinobi was betrayed by a creepy teacher who she thought loved her. The creepy, ugly-looking dude, Komichi, was tasked with locating and eliminating potential successors from the Light faction. While caught in the memory, Homura attempted to end Asuka, but she used a shockwave to escape. Ikaruga and Katsuragi headed for the top of the castle, thanks to a map that Suzune sent with an arrow. Meanwhile, Kiriya confronted Suzune, who told him that she realized the dark faction was the stronger one when she failed her mission. She planned to defeat his students to prove that she was the better teacher with those useless attacks she had carried out earlier. If the chosen successor from her side had won, then she would have fulfilled her dream of becoming a super ninja. She revealed that it was Dugan who went behind her back and spoiled her plans. Suzune stopped him from trying to save his precious milk tanks, but Daiduji showed up to face her longtime rival. Katsuragi and Ikaruga got stopped by Yomi and Hikage, who didn't care if they met their maker. Hikage said that Katsuragi's eyes made her feel a certain type of way that no man had been able to make her feel before. She didn't understand how another lady could make her gush and become so wet. Ikaruga and Katsuragi ended up using a smoke bomb to escape and push towards the goal. Meanwhile, Yagyuu arrived just in time to save Hibari from going through any more depraved torture methods. As Haruka tied her up, Mirai also came into the basement and held down Hibari. The two light faction girls combined their secret ninja techniques and escaped to the top of the tower. Asuka was almost at the top, but she met Homura again, who was proving to be an obsessed nuisance. As the two girls fought, Dugan revealed himself and said that he planned to use them as vessels to obtain the combined power of the Yin and Yang scrolls. Homura succumbed to the power of her leader when she tried to tell him that his actions were taboo. At the same time, all the other girls from both factions arrived in the room. Finally, there was enough milk to go around for everybody. Realizing that Dugan was their true enemy, they planned to take him down, but he dragged Asuka and Homura into a shinobi barrier. The rest of the girls were left to battle a horde of mechanical guards. Asuka and Homura faced off against Dugan's secret ninja art, Orochi. Homura planned to sacrifice herself to take down Dugan, but Asuka stopped the foolish girl and told her to believe that their friends would save them. With a lot of plot armor and the power of milk, Hibari was able to combine everyone's powers to power Asuka and Homura up with their spirits. The two chosen ones were able to defeat Dugan's Orochi and collect back the scrolls. After he got backed into a corner, Dugan activated the self-destruct sequence for the academy. The Serpent Academy girls went to evacuate the students and told the others to escape. Suzune then took Dugan down with her to prevent him from activating the curse technique on the Dark Faction girls. Later on, Asuka was promoted to the same level as Yagyuu, and you already know how Katsuragi congratulated her. Kiriya informed them that no bodies were found in the rubble after the Serpent Academy exploded, which meant that one day the girls would be able to reunite and bring more milk to all you degenerates who couldn't wait to have some.